There. I'm not muted. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday, March 1st Planning and Zoning meeting for the City of Peoria. I'm going to go ahead and get started with roll call. I'm Sean Hutchinson. Vice Chairman Jeff Nelson.
Sorry, present.
Secretary Jay Outluski.
Present.
Member Brian Patterson.
Present.
Member Linda Grice.
Present.
Member Clay Alsop.
Present.
Member Joanna Condi.
Present. Okay.
There we go. And it looks like Member John Albright is not with us tonight. So I'll get started by reading an opening statement to get the meeting started. This commission is composed of Peoria citizens who have been appointed by the City Council to serve on this commission as a civic responsibility without compensation. Our duty is to study and review planning and zoning issues within the City of Peoria. The commission hears zoning cases, holds public hearings, or may conduct a study session on a topic. Discussions made by the commission are forwarded to the written recommendations to the City Council, who take final action. All hearings are conducted in accordance with rules for procedures and Robert's Rules of Order. Each case will be called in the order in which appears on the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. In the interest of maintaining a fair and efficient hearing, the commission adheres to the following steps. The chair will call the case. City staff will then provide a brief report and recommendation. The applicant is then invited to give a presentation. Then any member of the public may provide testimony. The testimony is limited to 3 minutes. When we call your name, please come up to the podium and provide your name and address. After all the testimony has been taken, we will invite the applicant back up to provide any rebuttal or final statements. Finally, we will have the commission discussion and decision. Anyone wishing to speak must complete a speaker request form and hand it to the assistant on my left, down at the end of the dais. Please be as brief as possible and do not repeat statements already made by others. Any member of the public may appeal to the City Council the decision of the commission regarding a conditional use permit. The appeal must be submitted in writing to the Planning and Community Development Department within 15 calendar days of the date of the commission's decision. All commission recommendations on public hearing items, including general plan amendments, rezones, zoning code amendments, and special plans, move forward to the regular City Council meeting. The City Council will then act upon the recommendations of the commission. The City Council may concur with the decision, modify it, overturn it, or remand it back to the commission for further consideration. We welcome citizens' comments and as fellow citizens of Peoria. We thank you in advance for your participation. Okay, that being said, we will get started tonight with the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine or have been previously reviewed by the commission and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a commission member so requests. In which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. So tonight we have 5 items on the consent agenda. We have disposition of absence, discussion and possible action to approve or excuse the absence of Chair Sean Hutchinson, Commissioner Brian Patterson, and Commissioner Clay Alsop from the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on February 15th. 2C, the minutes, discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on February 15, 2018. We have item 3C, that is CU 1720, Vistancia Sports Grill. Request to obtain a conditional use permit for the bar tavern use of an existing freestanding restaurant building located at 28615 North El Mirage Road, northeast corner of El Mirage Road and Vistancia Boulevard, within the Vistancia Marketplace Shopping Center. The proposed site is zoned Vistancia Community Commercial. Item 4C is CU 18-02, Speedy Pawn, a request to obtain a conditional use permit for a pawn shop use within an existing building located at 8340 West Peoria Avenue. The proposed site is zoned intermediate commercial, C2. And then we have item 5C, CU 1717, Express Car Wash on Thunderbird Road, a request to obtain a conditional use permit to allow for the development and operation of an automated car wash within a new building approximately 3,800 square feet in size on a 1.67 gross acre vacant lot site located east of the northeast corner of 83rd Avenue and Thunderbird Road within the Arrowhead Mixed-Use Center planned area development. Commissioners, do we have any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda. Anybody?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay, we have a motion
I second.
and a second. Would you please vote on the consent agenda? It looks like that passes unanimously. We'll move on to the regular agenda now. First item up for business is unfinished business, and that is item 6R, Z16-0013, Cowtown rezoning. Request to rezone approximately 78 acres from special use permit and floodplain to the Cowtown planned area development to clarify the allowed uses, development standards, and operational criteria for Cowtown Range. And I think we're actually going to get a report. This one, excellent. Must be up, Lori. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you, Chairman, members of the Commission. Lori Deaver, I'll be presenting the staff report this evening. We have had an update on the case, and so what I'd like to do is run quickly through the project and then provide the updated information to you, which was also included as a copy on your packet this evening. So what we have here is a request for a rezoning case from special use permit in floodplain to the Cowtown planned area development. Brian Greathouse is here this evening. He is representing the applicant, Westward Ho Adventures. The site is approximately 78 acres. It is located in northern Peoria off the old Carefree Highway alignment. Surrounding the property is Arizona State Trust land to the north, to the west, and to the south. Over to the east, you do have about 428 acres of private property. You also have the APS substation, and leased is the Canyon Speedway Raceway, as you can see on the screen. Going back into some historical context, Cowtown started in the 1970s through Maricopa County, and it was an outdoor venue for entertainment events. And it was specifically geared towards the Old West activities and film productions. In approximately the early 90s, it changed ownership, and the introduction of firearm training and marksmanship classes were incorporated at that time. Shortly thereafter, the city approached the property owner to be a part of the regional annexation plan for northern Peoria. The property owner agreed to the annexation with the understanding that the land use on the property would be recognized and grandfathered. Subsequent to that, the property was annexed into the city in 1994. A little bit more background from a general plan perspective. This is designated as park open space and estate density residential. It is the same designations as when it was annexed, and this project still remains in conformance with the general plan designation. The zoning, upon annexation in 1994, the city assigned initial zoning for the property. At the time, the closest zoning districts that the city had were special use and floodplain districts. The floodplain district was later removed from the zoning ordinance. This has caused a non-conforming situation, if you will, that if the property wanted to be improved, they could no longer do that because the standards are gone. They would have to, they are non-conforming. So staff felt and agreed with the applicant that the PAD application was the best mechanism to go forward and improve the property into the future. The request and analysis piece, the land use. As I said, Cowtown has been a host for recreational and entertainment activities, along with shooting competitions, firearm trainings, advanced training out there. And as we've talked about before in previous discussion, the shooting range is a non-traditional use. And so while the city is the land use authority, this is definitely not a traditional use that we would see. Because of that, the owner did select a consultant to review the application and the practices that occur within Cowtown. Based on that information, the consultant proposed recommendations which were implemented by the applicant. Then the consultant reevaluated the range and has stated that they meet the criteria for best management practices. Going forward, the city is also looking to do a memorandum of understanding with the applicant. The owner will be responsible for making the appropriate modifications to ensure that those best practices are maintained throughout. Because the firearm industry does change, shooting range design and management does change and evolve over time, we want them to have the ability to make those appropriate changes as necessary. Access, as I mentioned, is off the old Carefree Highway. Definitely no water and sewer in this area. It is a remote location. So water and portable toilets are brought in as an as-needed basis. With the PAD mechanism, with the rezoning, they would be able to increase storage capacity in permanent facilities if they were to do future enhancements and expansion of the property. On the public safety portion, the PAD outlines additional review criteria depending on what the event is going out at Cowtown. And the owner has agreed to fence and sign the entire property. In certain locations where the topography is so remote or does not provide for the ability to fence, they are looking to do a post situation in intervals. Signage would be all the way around the property, and that exhibit is noted within the packet. From an outreach standpoint, the application was noticed in accordance with the Peoria zoning ordinance, and the outreach included postcards, signage, and a neighborhood meeting. No support or opposition was received prior to November 2nd. On November 2nd, we did receive a letter of opposition from the Arizona State Land Department. After that, Planning Commission and granted a continuance, in Arizona State Land Development and the applicant met to begin working on an agreement to address the items in the letter. So January 18th, we did receive an email from Arizona State Land Department saying that they did intend to withdraw the letter of opposition once an agreement was in place between the parties, that being the applicant and the state land. Provided to you this evening, we did receive an email February 28th from the Arizona State Land Deputy Commissioner. They have withdrawn their letter of opposition, so no opposition is on the case this evening. Because the letter of opposition has been withdrawn, staff is now changing and making a recommendation this evening, asking the Planning Commission to recommend approval of case Z13-0013 to City Council, subject to the conditions in the staff report. And with that, I will take any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions for staff? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chairman. Lori, you'd mentioned whether I can't remember the slide, it was a few back. You mentioned if there may be a situation where permanent facilities have to be put in place or more water storage capacity. I can't remember what it was under, infrastructure or water sewer. If that's the case, if permanent facilities were required in the future, would that come back before the commission, or under this PAD, would that go through a different process?
Chairman, Commissioner Nelson, depending on the intensity of the increase of use and depending on what improvements needed to be made, that may be addressed through a site plan application, which would be through an administrative nature. If part of that change included a change in intensity of the uses that were on the property, that may trigger a PAD amendment, which may be going back in front of commission to look at that point of time. So it would depend on the intensity and the changes being proposed at that point.
Thank you, that makes sense, appreciate it.
Lori, I have a question. Was the owner and management of the Pleasant Valley Airport part of the area where the postcards were mailed to for neighborhood meetings?
Chairman, good question. They are a leased property from the State Land Department. So because of the notification laws, we have to send the notice to the property owner. So in this case, it would be Arizona State Land Department. It would be under their purview to notify the lessees in the area of the application.
So they would have been part of that then?
They would have been contacted. It would have been State Land Department's purview to reach out to them.
Just to follow up on that question, and maybe when the applicant's making his statement, I keep seeing in here about the helicopter training and the shooting air to ground, ground to air, whatever it is. But I'm worried that if no consideration has been given to the glider school that they have over there and the flight patterns and all that, I mean, is that all being coordinated, or is that something that's in our purview?
Chairman, members of the commission, I'll start the answer to it, and if Mr. Greathouse would like to come in and chime in more, then I would welcome that. Every time that a helicopter operation would occur, the applicant would need to file for a temporary use permit with the city. So that would come in advance, and the city would be doing additional review on that application. So additional departments other than planning, so it would be public safety, fire, et cetera, reviewing that application. Depending on the nature of that application, we may alert additional people in the area of the operations. It is the owner's responsibility to maintain those operations within the property of Cowtown. And so with that, Mr. Greathouse would probably be able to provide additional information on that.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Is the applicant present? And would you please state your name again and address for the record?
Thank you, Chairman. Brian Greathouse, 702 East Osborne Road in Phoenix. We are very happy to be here, and at the end of the day, we request your recommendation of approval on this PAD to the City Council, and we're excited about moving forward. Thank you, Lori, for the great presentation. I think that's about the third time I've heard it. Gets better every time. And your answers were fantastic, by the way. The temporary use permit for, I'll call it potential helicopter tactical training and shooting, is limited only to military and law enforcement agencies. So it's not like some private group can go charter a helicopter and all of a sudden be out there shooting wildly. It'll be a very controlled and regulated environment by people who know what they're doing. They'll submit plans to the city. Notices will go out. There's a lot of safeguards in place.
Okay.
So that's that. And just for the record, we support all the findings. We are okay with all the stipulations. And if you guys would be so inclined to recommend approval to the City Council, we would greatly appreciate it.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant from the board? I just, the real only reason I asked that is I got some family members that are, I'm not a pilot or pretend to be one, but some of my family members are, and they're pretty familiar with the operation out there. And I know it falls out of this sphere of influence of Sky Harbor, so they have a lot of leeway on the flight patterns that they take and with the glider school out there. And I'd be concerned about, any kind of, if there was operations going on, if the coordination, and it's probably more not on our level, but it's just something, I know it's an operation within the city, and it was just I'm most concerned about that.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. From what I understand, all those leases for the Canyon Raceway and the glider school and all the other state land leases are all going away, and they haven't been extended. So I don't think the glider school is going to be a conflict with our, once again, potential helicopter shooting. This won't occur on a regular basis.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, no other questions from the, do we have any requests to speak on the? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other requests to speak, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And is there any other further comment from the commission on this item? Okay. Oh, here we go. Commissioner Outluski.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily a question as more of a procedure, because we have a memorandum here from the state that, a document that states there'll be a memorandum of understanding with the city. If somebody makes the motion, does this need to be included into, or is it already in your recommendations?
Commissioner Olszewski, no, it is not a part of the recommendation. That is a separate item that is being handled. So it does not need to be included within the motion.
All right, excellent. All right, seeing no other discussion, we'll entertain a motion on item 6R, Z16-0013.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of Z16-0013 to City Council, subject to conditions in the staff report.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Alsop. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Condi. Would you please vote? All right, giddy up. We have unanimous decision. Okay. Next up is under new business, item 7R. We have Z17-34, Layton residents, a request to rezone approximately 1.16 acres, 50,312 square feet from general agriculture to suburban ranch 35. To better align development standards with the properties in the area to facilitate construction of a custom single-family home. The property is located at 6990 West Tacoma Drive. Staff report. Who's up?
Good evening, Chair Hutchinson, members of the Commission. My name is Randy Proch. I will be presenting item 7R, Z17-34, the Layton residential rezoning. As you've stated, this application is by Mitchell Layton and Elizabeth Baldwin, the owners of this property, just over 1 acre in size, located just east of the northeast corner of 71st Avenue in Tacoma. This is generally at the edge of Peoria. The Arizona Canal diversion channel just north bisects Peoria to the south and Glendale to the north. The area is very rural in nature. There's many ranches still in this area. To the south is a more traditional single-family residential subdivision. Our general plan land use designation is for estate density residential. That's 0 to 2 dwelling units per acre with a target of 1. So as this property is just over 1 acre in size with 1 house being proposed, this does meet the intent and the character of the general plan. Our current zoning is a bit of a hodgepodge surrounding the area. Beyond the immediate block between 71st Avenue and approximately 70th Avenue is mostly unincorporated Maricopa County. Again, to the south is a more traditional single-family residential subdivision. R135 is the designation. To the immediate west of the proposal outlined in red is Suburban Ranch 35, the same zoning district that's being asked this evening. To the north is still agricultural, and 2 houses to the east is agricultural as well. This lot is a little bit different as there is not a single-family home on this site already, and that is our request this evening to align the standards more in line with the surrounding area. As mentioned, these are the standards. Currently, as ag, there is a minimum lot width of 200 feet, minimum depth of 200 feet, and setbacks that really put a burden on our applicant this evening to try to fit a home within the buildable lot area. The proposal is SR 35. As a comparison, I've included R135, which is the subdivision to the south. You can see that they are virtually identical. The SR 35 has additional allowances should they wish to proceed with livestock in uses such as that. That is not their intent this evening, but that is more of the character of the area you can find with Suburban Ranch, which is the general surroundings to the west, north, and further east of the proposal. In accordance with our notification, rezoning, notice of application, notice of hearing postcards were sent out to all residents within 600 feet and all HOAs within 1 mile. The site was posted by the applicant in accordance with our requirements. We have only had 2 emails of general inquiry wondering what was occurring. It's not often you see zoning cases go around this area. And we did conduct a neighborhood meeting. We were the host on January 24th at 5 p.m. Myself and our applicants were present. However, no attendees ended up coming. Our findings for you this evening are the proposed zoning district is in conformance with our goals and objectives of the general plan. This rezoning is consistent with that designation of a state density residential, which has a target of 1 dwelling unit per acre. And this will result in a residential development. And again, this is to develop only a single family home that is compatible with the surrounding areas. Our recommendation for you this evening is to recommend approval of Z1734 to City Council, subject to conditions outlined in the staff report. With that, I will take any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? All right, seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Is the applicant here? Would you like to speak? Okay. Unless necessary. We'll close the public hearing then. Any further questions for staff? Or any questions at all? Nope. Okay, with that, we'll entertain a motion. Who's next?
Chairman, I'd like to recommend approval, make a motion to recommend approval of case Z17-34 to the City Council, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Nelson. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Patterson. Would you please vote? And we have unanimous decision. Okay. Moving right along. We are up to a call to the public on non-agenda items. Nobody feels like talking tonight. Okay. Updates from staff. You guys always have lots of stuff to say.
Mr. Chairman, Commission, I have the pleasure this evening of doing updates from staff. Just a quick reminder, our next meeting, March 15th, 2018, has been canceled. So we will see you back here April 5th, 2018. It will be a regular meeting here.
Excellent. Okay, any updates from the Zoning Commission?
Okay. I was wondering if there was a possibility of having a study session on some of the zoning. We had talked about that after the last, a couple of us. Has that been discussed? Chris?
Commissioner Condi, members of the commission, certainly we're very willing to do a study session with the commission on any topics you have of interest. I know we do have some new members on the commission. If you have a topic in mind that you'd like us to either bring in support or talk to you about, we'd be happy to do that.
Okay, well, one of the issues I would like to see is the width of the lots and the setbacks. That case came up at the last planning and zoning meeting, and I'm not really happy with some of the setbacks. I mentioned it at the time, and I'd like to see what the plans are for affordable housing and just a whole lot of topics regarding planning for minimal lot sizes, housing structures, et cetera, and whether I'd also like to have a better understanding of why there might be a necessity for a homeowners association for a very small number of lots, because my experience has been that it's hard enough to get members on when you have 100 homes, let alone 25 or 30, and I see this affecting Peoria in the future. Not right now, but I can see as things go on. And so I'd like to have some sort of study session to look at the lot sizes, the kind of houses that are built, the number of per acre, the open space, whether it's necessary in some of the small lots, et cetera.
Okay.
Is that clear enough? Maybe it wasn't clear enough.
Commissioner Connie, members of the commission, what we'll do is we'll look at all your comments, and we'll figure out the best way to put together a presentation that identifies the current standards of all the zoning districts, how they relate to the general plan, how they advance the general plan, and also the companion documents like the design review manual that require certain amounts of open space, and we can have a conversation about that. So let us go back and identify all those topics and perhaps a time frame that we think is reasonable to bring it back to the commission for a study session.
Okay.
That works.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other reports from the commission? All right, seeing none, we have nothing else on the agenda, so we're going to call this one adjourned. Thank you, everyone.